Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope the two videos that I have made on the very short answers have helped you a lot. Let us discuss another 10 very short answers from the previous board exam papers. Before I do that, please subscribe my channel if you have not done, and do not forget to press the bell icon so that you'll get the updates. Let's start next very short answers. Let us discuss another 10 short answers from 21 to 30. The first question is this: can quotient of friction be greater than 1? So we know that friction depends upon nature of surface. So yes, when this quotient of friction be greater than 1, in general it is actually less than 1. But there is one certain case where it can be more than 1. When is that? So in general, quotient of friction is less than 1. But under certain circumstances, it will be more than 1. When that happens, if the surfaces are polished heavily, we say over polished. Okay, the adhesive forces between the molecules increases, and then quotient of friction will be greater than 1. For example, you see this one, there is a rough surface. So when this rough surface is polished, it become like this. Suppose if you over polish it, if you over polish this, again the molecules will become ions. So in that case, adhesive force means force between the two different types of molecules. And in that case, again the friction will increase. So polishing will decrease friction, but one important point, over polishing will increase friction. So when the quotient of friction be greater than 1, when the surface is over polished. That's a very important point. Now let us see the next question. Why does the car with a flattened tire stop sooner than the one with inflated tires? So remember, if you look at these two tires, in this case, the tire is not flattened, and look at the area of contact. This is area of contact. But look at in this case, the area of contact have increased. So remember, a rolling friction directly proportional to area of contact. So more is the area of contact, more is the rolling friction. Less is the area of contact, less is the rolling friction. So that's what means. So rolling friction depends on surface area of contact. That's very important point. So we can add this sentence. So F are directly proportional to A. So what happened? When the tire is flattened, area of contact increases, friction increases, and car stops sooner. So whenever the tire is flattened, we cannot move forward because as the area of contact increases, rolling friction increases. That's an important point. Now let us see the next one. A horse has to pull harder during the start of motion than later. Explain. So we know that limiting friction force is greater than kinetic friction force. So limiting friction we say maximum static, which is nothing but mu s mg, and kinetic friction is nothing but mu k mg. As mu s greater than mu k, fs greater than fk. That means static friction is more than kinetic. So what happened? For starting motion of the car, the limiting friction has to be overcome. Once motion is set, frictional force reduces. Therefore, the horse has to pull harder during the start. So here what happens, see, when we want to, when the horse want to pull the cart, it has to overcome the frictional force. There is a frictional force acting between these wheels and the ground. So this friction is static. There's limiting friction. So in order to overcome that, it has to exert a force in the forward direction. Once this is set into motion, the friction become kinetic friction. As I said, kinetic is less than static. So for horse, it is easy to pull the cart. So in the beginning, it has to pull harder. Why? Because there will be static friction. Once it is in motion, there will be kinetic friction. That's why it is easy for the horse to pull the cart after the motion. But in the beginning, it has to pull hard. Now let's move on to the next question. What happened to the quotient of friction if the weight of the body is doubled? The quotient of friction remains unchanged. So in the exam, when you write such answers, you underline this type of points. So when the examiner observes there is an important point, you don't read much about the latter answer because this is the main important, this is the crux of this answer. Even if the weight of the body is doubled, quotient of friction depends only on the nature of surface in contact. It is independent of weight or not. Why it is independent? Let us see. The quotient of friction mu is equal to F by N. See, for example, the normal reaction weight. So weight of the body acts downward, and whereas the normal reaction acts upward. So normal reaction nothing but weight. And as friction directly proportional normal reaction, and normal reaction directly proportional to weight. So what happened when the weight is doubled, friction also doubled. So that means mu dash is equal to 2F by 2N. Again F by N, nothing but again M. That means when you double the normal reaction, that means when you double the weight, normal reaction doubles. When the normal reaction doubles, frictional force doubles. So that's why the ratio is always a constant. That's why it is unchanged. That's a very important point. So frictional force is independent of weight of the body, depends only on the nature of surface. And is it necessary that mass should be present at the center of mass of any system? So answer is no, it is not necessary that there should be mass at the present at the center of mass. For example, you take a ring. For ring, the center of mass will be at the center of the ring. But do you find any mass there? No. Similarly, for a hollow sphere also, the center lies at the center of the sphere. Still, we don't find. So for a ring and hollow sphere, at center of mass, there is no mass. That's why it is not compulsory that there should be mass at center of mass. Now, another interesting question. Why we cannot open or close the door by applying force at the hinge? The reason is why is asking. So we know that torque is defined as the product of force and perpendicular distance between the point of application of force and the hinge. See, for example, I have an object which I fix. This is a point of rotation. Now I'm applying a force here, and R is the distance. So torque, nothing but the turning effect of force into this perpendicular distance. This is the fixed point about which the rod will rotate. So from this we understand that more is the distance, less force is required. Less is the distance, more force is required. So now let us see. This girl is trying to open the door with the help of a handle. Remember, we find these hinges of the door at these points. These are the hinges. Now look at this, and this is that is the point about which this door will rotate. So this is the perpendicular distance, and this is the force applied. RC is pulling the door, or we can either way you can do it. So F and R, since there is a more R, there is a less force. Now suppose if you try to open the door by applying force at the hinge. So R is almost to 0. So torque is equal to 0. That means even they are applying a force, why there is no turning effect? Because there is no R. So remember, in this case, as R is 0, torque is almost 0. That means it is not possible for us to open the door by applying force at the hinges because R decreasing. See, when the force is applied at the hinges, the normal distance of the point of application of force is 0. So torque is 0, that is turning effect of force is 0. So when R0, tau 0, so we cannot open the door. So if you, that's the reason why handles are provided to the door at the edges. So it is easy to open the door if you fix the handle at the edges. Okay. Now let's see the next question. By spinning sets on a tabletop, how will you distinguish a hard boiled egg from a raw egg? So you can find one video in my channel. Please watch that to understand better. What happens if you look at a raw egg and a boiled egg? Remember, in raw egg, we have this yellow yolk at the center, and there is a liquid will be distributed like this. But whereas in a raw egg, entire mass is solidifies. The entire mass solidifies here. But in case of a raw egg, it will be in liquid form. So if you spin the egg about this axis, the mass will be thrown away. But in this case, that is not going to happen because the mass is fixed. So since the mass is throwing away, we know moment of inertia I is equal to mr square. So I proportional to r square. More is the distance of the mass, more is the moment of inertia. That means for a boiled egg, if you look at the moment of inertia for raw egg greater than moment of inertia for boiled egg. But we know according to conservation of angular momentum, tau is equal to I omega. This is, sorry, L is equal to I omega, angular momentum, right? So L is equal to I omega. When we apply the same torque, momentum is conserved. So we write I1 omega 1 is equal to I2 omega 2. So from this, it is clear that as moment of inertia raw egg greater than boiled egg, angular velocity of raw egg will be less than angular velocity of boiled egg. That means a raw egg will have less angular velocity, means it will spin for less time, and whereas boiled egg spins for more time. So the one which spins for more time is the boiled egg, and the one which spins for less time is the raw egg. So first and foremost point, you have tried that. When both the raw egg and boiled egg are spin simultaneously, the one which spins for more time is the boiled egg, and the one which spins for less time is the raw egg. Why it spins for more time? The reason just now explained. So that's what I say. When the raw egg is spinning, the fluid is displaced away from the axis of rotation. That's what I said. When you spin this raw egg, all the fluid will be displaced from the center. So moment of inertia raw egg is larger than boiled egg. That's what I said. So let the eggs are rotated with the same angular momentum. L is same. So I1 omega 1. So torque is the same. So I raw egg and into, so tau is called I alpha, we can say, or we can take either equate torque or better. Instead of that, use this formula. This one is better. IR greater than IB, so omega r less than. So raw egg rotates slowly compared with the boiled egg. So instead of writing the torque better, if you use L is equal to I omega, so I raw egg into omega raw egg is equal to I boiled egg into omega boiled egg. So that in that way, it is very clear. So the one which spins for more time is the boiled egg. That point you have to write very well. Now let's move on to question number 28. Why are spokes provided in a bicycle? To ensure uniform speed of the bicycle wheel, it should possess large moment of inertia. To increase moment of inertia of the wheel without much increase of mass, it provides the spokes. See, now what we are doing here, here the mass is moved away from center. So that means we have increased R. So moment of inertia, I said I is equal to mr square. If you want to increase moment of inertia, R has to increase. So that's so with the help of spokes, we have increased the moment of inertia without changing the much angular momentum. So here, in order to increase the moment of inertia, so it allows more stability. So this bicycles are provided with the spokes. That's an important point. Let us see the next small problem will be given here. Find the torque of the force. So F bar is given. So what is F bar? F bar is equal to 7I cap plus 3J cap minus 5K cap. And the position vector, the R bar is given. R bar is equal to I cap minus J cap plus K cap. Now is asking torque. We all know that torque tau bar is equal to R bar cross F bar. It is the cross product of position vector and force. So let us calculate cross product of those two. You know that. So while calculate cross product, just to use this matrix method. So it's very clear for us. So here the coordinates of numbers for in front of I is 1. So 1, minus 1, 1. And for this one, 7, 3, and minus 5. So we all know that I cap into, so leave this column and row. So 1 into minus 5, 5. 5 minus 3 into 1, 3 only. So minus j into, leave this column, minus 5 into 1 is minus 5. 7 into 1 is minus 7. So plus k cap into, leave this column, 3. And 7 into 1 minus 1, so plus 7. So this, therefore this answer is 2I cap and plus 12J cap plus 10K cap. This is the torque. So torque is simply the cross product of R bar and F bar. That's it. And if magnitude is asked, simply find out the magnitude. But here it is not mentioned. Just is asking the torque. So it's enough. Now let us the last question in this video. Define average pressure. Mention its unit and dimension formula. Is it a scalar or a vector? So simply pressure is nothing but the force acting per unit area, or you can say thrust. Thrust or force are same, acting per unit. So pressure is equal to force by area. We all know that force is Newton, area is meter square. This otherwise known as Pascal. So symbol is PA. So Pascal is the SI unit. And CJ's unit of force is dyne or centimeter square. So either way you can write. So dyne centimeter square or Newton per meter square or Pascal is the unit. Now how to write the dimension formula? So dimension formula force. The dimension formula force is ml t power minus 2 upon area is L square. Nothing but ml power minus 1 t power minus 2. ml power minus 1 t power. So in the exam, it is better to derive. Always remember dimension formulas, don't by-heart them, learn how to derive them. The next part of the question is it a scalar or a vector? So many students think that since it's the ratio of force by area, since force is a vector, they think it is a vector. So what happened? Let us see. Remember, most important point you should understand is pressure is a scalar quantity. This is very important. Even if you write that much, it's okay. But why it is a scalar? The explanation given. This is because hydrostatic pressure is transmitted in all directions when the force applied, which shows that definite direction not associated with the pressure. See, this man is trying to press the balloon. When he's pressing the balloon, the air is moving upward, this direction, in some air moving like this. So even though he's applying force in this direction, the pressure of that air distributed in many directions. So that's why it is a scalar. A vector should have a fixed direction. But in this case, the pressure is having multiple directions. So that's why it is not a vector. So I hope you understood the meaning of this. So these are the 10 questions which are given in the previous board exams. And always write down more than asked. And definitely you are going to score full marks in the exam. I hope you really understood what I explained these 10 questions. Keep learning physics and I wish you happy learning. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share these videos to your friends. Thank you once again.